Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Creative Kingdom Society, everyone's favorite show about creators who create things that then inspire other people to create more things. I'm Jake Ballentine. This is Chuck Schofield, who's looking very foreboding today.
Well, I didn't mean, I wasn't going for foreboding, I recognize that the Haunted Mansion is the biggest merchandising uh, ride there is, but I don't own any Haunted Mansion merch. Hey, you got the poster back there.
I got
Is
the
that,
poster. Here I have this poster too, but Haunted Mansion today. If you're talking about merchandise, um, it's my wife's favorite. Now, I was looking at like what could I wear of stuff, and then I realized that we own a lot of Haunted Mansion stuff, but they're all women's clothing, and more importantly, things that don't fit me. Is because they're really not that different for Haunted Mansion, but they just don't fit me. So there you go. But that Memento Mori shop that's in the Magic Kingdom,
that
which
looks
by the
awesome.
way loosely translates to uh, remember. It literally says means remember death is
Mhm.
what Memento Mori means.
Right.
But I guess the someone was telling me recently, maybe it's not true. I haven't fact checked it, but what they were saying is that the it is a term that is used where they're saying it basically means remember everyone must die
Right.
is what that term means. So anyway, with that being said, today we are reviewing or more likely discussing episode 2 of Behind the Attraction. This is about the Haunted Mansion.
But before we start, it's not hard to remind people that we don't know what we're doing. We're brand new YouTubers. We're kind of designing and creating the show organically as we go, uh, discussing the one of the things we'll talk about today is the optimal tension between creative visions or between extremes on the creative spectrum of how formally we should do this episode. Do we do it in order, chronologically, scene by scene, comprehensively, or do we just hit the highlights and riff loosey goosey on whatever we loved? We're still going to find that sweet spot. But having said that, we do want to continue some traditions that we want to do in every episode, like mentioning or highlighting a creator of the week that we had run across this last week, maybe commenting on some news items that happened this week, and then, or even following up on things we suggest to each other, or hopefully eventually the audience suggests to us, right? Please in the comments
Yes.
below. In that spirit, today's episode, right now, we're going to do a little topics of the week section, and then we'll dive into the review. And as always, we will finish discussing what this made us want to do, how we felt called to act, what we felt inspired to produce or create after consuming this. So that's the agenda for today. One thing that I wanted to start with for sure was in last week's episode, you suggested that I check out the show on Netflix, uh, The Toys That Made Us,
Yeah.
also produced by, what was his name?
Brian.
Brian Volk Weiss, right? I thought it was interesting that in that show, he was listed as the first executive producer, but in Behind the Attraction, he's listed as the sixth. I don't know what that means. I'm not familiar enough with
Well, I know that Brian was the director of this. Brian
okay.
was the director of this, the director of that. He might have had more to do with the creation. They might have said, we want that kind of flair, so let's get him to direct it, but might have had less to do with it. Or let's be honest, doesn't matter what it is, The Rock's at the top of the card. The Rock
He's
gets,
the main eventer,
the
but
Rock gets top billing.
uh, uh, however that works, however that happened, his fingerprints are all over both of these shows. The
Yes.
intro was identical and the same. The use of clips or the repetition of clips
Yes.
in a comedic way was identical.
It's
The
supposed to be scary.
yeah, oh yeah, like they said that like 6 times, right?
They kept going back to that same
Fantastic.
clip over every time they said funny.
It's
And,
perfect
and,
though.
and then at the beginning, when he says, the guy says, "Oh, I remember this as a child. Don't change it." And
Right,
then,
right, right.
then they went back to talk about all the changes, and they went back to him saying, "Don't change it."
Oh,
Like,
once we dive in, I'm gonna put a pin in that because I've got a good comment for that when we do the review.
yeah,
But going back to the toys that made us, you caught me last week skipping over the intro, right?
yeah.
But then the intro for both of these stupid, silly little awesome shows are brilliant, except the one for toys has great lyrics. And it made me wish the Behind the Attraction show had lyrics too. It doesn't, it just has
Uh,
catchy music. But some of those lyrics, one of them was um, plastic creations that last for generations that we still cannot let go, little molded figures that gave us big dreams. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love it already. I watched the pro wrestling one, the Star Wars one, and the He-Man one was
uh,
the most intriguing.
Let
What?
me ask you this real quick. The Star Wars one, I found it so fascinating because I never understood, even though I think Boba Fett's cool. Like, I think he's, especially now with Mandalorian, but Boba Fett has had more screen time on Mandalorian than he ever had in the original Star Wars. And I never understood, like, why was he so popular? And in that show, they explain about the toys and them being pulled off. And it was a, really rare toy. And a lot of the popularity was actually because of the toys. I thought that was fascinating.
And that it couldn't shoot for safety reasons.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me tell you about my creator of the week. Um, Definitely different than most. We think about YouTubers, we think about podcasters, authors, we think about Imagineers, we think about filmmakers. But this is a different type of creator, but definitely a creator all the same. And that is someone who creates an amazing Airbnb, someone who creates an incredible
Oh yeah.
house and the interior decorating. And all this guy's name on airbnb.com is just Jeffrey. I don't know his name, but if you just look up haunted mansion Airbnb, you're going to see like this stuff going on in here, these pictures. I mean, you would believe that this is the haunted mansion. I mean, it like that really looks like you're having dinner in the stretching elevator. I mean, it's amazing. These people, whoever it is that's involved in this, one, they spend a lot of money, but money alone does not get you this. They put so much creative energy into these. I've
Mhm.
I've spent a lot of time looking at these photos. I think it just came into the market this last week because all of a sudden 4 different people sent it to me and saying, "Wow, that's cool." But if you take a look, oh, that's amazing. Just look the outside of the house. Let's see. No, it's not
Just
going to cooperate.
tell people to look it up on the
No, look at it, but
Airbnb.
the outside of the
Yeah,
house doesn't look anything like what the inside
yeah,
is,
it's just
but
like
the
a normal
inside
house.
is
Yeah,
unbelievable. Like, so
yeah.
cool. Just look up Haunted Mansion Airbnb. It will be the first thing that pops up on Google, and it's awesome.
What is it in Anaheim or
Fullerton.
Fullerton? Fullerton? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Totally want to check that out sometime.
Yeah.
Okay, another thing you mentioned last week was Todd James Pierce on the Disney History Institute podcast. He's got a two-part episode out about the Jungle Cruise around the whole what's going on and everything. But I almost loved those two episodes more than the episode of Behind the Attraction. And I don't mean that in the instead of sort of way, but in an addition to sort of way. You know,
Yes.
he brought up the story about the mom telling the kid, "Oh, we can skip that because we've done it before," as being probably apocryphal and not true. But whether or not it was true,
Really.
like, yeah, whether or not it was true, the point is that Walt understood this public desire for constant improvement and evolution. And, as long as there is imagination in the world, we will never stop adding.
Walt is a storyteller. And I can tell you from all the storytellers I know, plus I'm in the world of public speakers, oftentimes what people do who are storytellers is they will take multiple experiences and then put them into one experience where that mom might represent four different people.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
if I say this happened here, this happened there, audience now isn't thinking about what I said. So he might have said that in the Imagineer, like in the meeting with the Imagineers to get the point across. And what he was really saying is, I had four different experiences where people said this, but if I went off here and off there and off there, there's no point to it. There's no point of getting the point across.
Yeah.
And so it might have been something like that.
One more Jungle Cruise bit of to comment on, and then one more Haunted Mansion. Then we'll dive into the review. But did you see any of the Jungle Cruise premiere at Disneyland coverage?
I did. Looked amazing. Looked incredible. I mean, I watched the Rock's Instagram video that you sent me. That was awesome. I mean, almost brought tears to my eyes. Especially his speech at the end when he said, this place opened in 1955. This was Walt's favorite attraction." And then he said, "Walt, if you're watching,
No, yeah,
I don't know, we're trying to do the best we can to keep your dream
yeah,
alive, your vision alive." I thought it was also very fun to watch Emily Blunt experience the ride for the first time,
right.
which boggled my mind because, I mean, yeah,
Why
I know
wouldn't
she's
you?
from England, but I'm pretty sure that him and that her and John Krasinski live in the Los Angeles area. Um,
And the second I got cast to be in that movie, that would be the first thing I'd want to do.
yeah, because it was pre-pandemic when the
Yeah,
casting and all that
yeah,
happened. I would, but besides the point, I at one point she said, "Was that a joke?"
yeah,
And
yeah,
The
yeah.
Rock's like, "Yes, that was a joke." And she's like, "Oh, okay."
No, but great coverage. I love that he's always taking his phone out with him and doing the selfie thing. He's a master of that. He's the master of saying the right emotional thing at the right moment and those sort of things.
Yeah.
Uh, um, we're obviously fans, right? Um, but you know who I noticed, not in his shorter clips, but I watched some longer ones. Um, one of the skippers in episode one of Behind the Attraction was also at the premiere and in a group of other skippers. And I was like, oh, this is like a minor celebrity now. Good for her. And I had to look up her name, Floor, right? And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, all right, I'll go to Disneyland and then hope I'm on her boat. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, and I thought, wow, she's a little minor celebrity now because of Disney Plus. Like,
Well, and
what?
I saw some of those same on some of the Instagram pictures. I saw some of those Imagineers
Oh
that
yeah,
were in the movie on there. Like, I thought it was so cool. They had all the skippers there. Um, I did find it funny, the Hollywood magic that happened because they had the red carpet in front of the Jungle Cruise ride in Adventureland, and then they have the movie in the Fantasyland theater is where they did it, but the little Hollywood magic made it look like the red carpet went into the
right.
theater, which was, way the heck on the other side of the park.
Have you been there ever before for any other movie premieres?
No, I've never been there in a movie premiere.
Uh, uh, I remember being there on the day of one of the Pirates, and and I only remember it because um, they had huge stadium bleachers set up at the Rivers of America,
And then where they were
and,
showing it there.
and the big screen up at the Rivers of America, and it was just a very unique look. Like you never see that sort of setup in Disneyland. But I wasn't there when any of it went down. But then years later, my kids and I stumbled into the best spot at the gate at the red, or in this case, blue carpet for the premiere of Tomorrowland.
Mm,
And we got a picture with every single celebrity, every
wow.
single one. Richard Sherman, Brad Bird, all of the actors except for George Clooney.
Uh-huh.
he was he was moving quick, and he had
Yeah.
a huge entourage. But we just stumbled into. We were walking by, say, "Hey, wow, this is cool," and then we just stumbled into the last little corral they left open for fans right at the right moment. It was just a Disney magic moment. We hadn't even planned on that.
Where'd they do that one?
Downtown Disney. It's like um, sort of like from between the blue carpet was like between ESPN Zone and Rainforest Cafe, straight down, straight to the movie theater.
So they did it at the movie theater
Yeah,
there.
and then afterwards, after they get off, um, they got on the monorail and went into Tomorrowland, and Tomorrowland was blocked off for private, just for them.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. My
That's
kids and I
amazing.
walked. We had passes at the time, and we tried to walk, just like walk in, like we were part of the prep. But of course, that didn't work.
Yeah, you can't get on the monorail. Well,
But
anyway, we can talk about that all day. So let's jump into Haunted
yeah, let's
Mansion.
start the review. Oh! I would be remiss if I didn't mention um, the creator that I think of immediately when I think of the Haunted Mansion, and that is Benjamin K. Wallace and Raya Corsiglia, who are making the mansion chair. And when you talk about wanting to visit a mansion Airbnb, uh, I want to see with my own eyes this mansion chair that Benjamin K. Wallace is making. Raya is making a documentary about it. They're both a fun follow on Instagram and YouTube. Check it out. But now let's dive into the review. First thing you thought of, first highlight in the review. First thing you want to mention about the episode.
The first thing about the episode, I think right at the beginning, hearing the recording and hearing the recording before it started. Do you want me to do a breathy like this? And then it just went right into his spiel. But here it's just so interesting to hear that creation of him saying, so is this how you want it? You want it like this? And then just boom, right into it.
I
So
love it.
anyway, I think it started off with such a great, okay, here we are behind the scenes. And then as soon as it got into the actual recording, then we were hearing the recording with the production on it, with all the different sound effects on it, showing the ride and that kind of thing. I thought it was a great beginning.
Beautiful beginning. Beautiful putting us in that spot at that time and place. I loved it too. I don't know if I made this connection, if I wrote this into it, or if this is what they were going for, but welcome, foolish mortals who argue against change.
Because they talked about, just like in the last episode we talked about, they're really pushing this as these attractions are not sacred. They change.
I think to your point, it made me realize that this whole series is about change, embracing change, remembering change, memorializing change, commemorating change, even ritualizing change, but more than anything else, expecting change. And that the only people that argue against it or fight against it or complain about it are literally foolish mortals. I, I thought that was great.
Yeah. It, towards the end, they had a vignette where they were talking about this concept, and I don't remember who it was, but they said something about, they showed a clip of Walt talking about always improving things, always plussing things. And then the fans and the company to an extent, and there was a long period, from Imagineering, you hear Michael Eisner talking about how there was a 15-year period where all they were saying was, what would Walt do? What would Walt do? But the truth is that Walt was always trying to plus things, always trying to improve things, always trying to try new things. So there is a dichotomy, because what you're saying is, what would Walt do? Walt would change things. Walt would improve things. Walt would continuously do that. And I think that's a really interesting thing when the fans are all saying, keep it the same, keep it the same, keep it the same. But if it's only about nostalgia, the future generations won't care. They won't
Yeah,
care because they won't have the same nostalgia that we had.
it's that awkward tension between the penny pinching suits who realize change costs money, and then the creatives who always want to change every as often as they can, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think the Imagineer who said, he said, if they're classic and still effective, there's no need to improve them, right? Like that was sort of the idea with this one. But what I loved more than anything else in this episode is why that was even a problem.
Mm.
Why didn't people get tired of this ride? Why is it a perennial classic? Why does it have this evergreen appeal? Why does something made 50, 60 years ago still trick us, and still we don't know how it works, and still amazes us, and still gives us that sense of awe and wonder? Why is this a crowning jewel? Why is this the best thing that crop of Imagineers could have done? Why is this, why was this like the crowning jewel of that generation of Imagineers, giving their best, their collective best, to their mentor who had just passed away? You know what I mean?
Oh, hi, son.
Are we visited by a
Jacob, come here.
spirit?
Come here. What's up, man?
Hey, Jakey.
Hi.
Hey, what did
Oh,
you think of the haunted mansion?
It was cool.
It was what?
It was cool.
It was cool.
Mhm.
Did you have two feelings at the same time? So I was about to bring this up when you say why. Now, Jacob here watches a show called Daniel Tiger. And when he talks about things that are feel somewhat scary, talks about having two feelings at the same time, excitement and fear, and how that's a good thing. And I was thinking about that with him, and that he had two feelings at the same time while he was on that ride. Here, put the shovel down. While he was on that ride, he had two feelings at the same time. And then what do they do here? They have fear, and they have laughter, and they have humor. And those two things together make it so now for us, and for what they were talking about there, like, oh, it was funny and it was, it's supposed to be scary. And for us as adults, we forget that it can be scary. Where for him at the beginning of it, it's really scary. And then we get to the latter part where it's fun and he's seeing these ghosts almost like at a party, as the one Imagineer described, almost like retired actors who are so excited that miss the stage, that miss the audience. So Jacob here had two feelings at the same time. All right, we're back. We had a visitor. Hopefully that was fun for you. But with that visitor, what we're saying though is that idea of the two feelings at the same time, for him, like that's like what he said afterwards because of that show, Daniel Tiger. He was like, I had two feelings at the same time. And literally he was talking about being scared and then also having laughter and fun. And he really liked that. People like to be scared, even little kids.
but in that same spirit of the whole, how the beautifully painted the tension between, is it supposed to be funny or is it supposed to be scary? Is it heck, even the tension between, is it supposed to be a walkthrough or is it supposed to be a ride? Right? I mean, there was even tension there, but then the beautiful right answer is, it's not either or, it's both and. It's
Yeah.
all of the above. And how do we do that? Collectively. Not a single individual, no matter how talented or smart they are on their own, could have pulled this off by themselves. It
Yeah.
took Walt's entire team of best creatives to collectively come up with something that were literally the total whole, the whole was greater than the sum of its individual parts.
Yes.
And this episode did a beautiful job of highlighting a lot of those individual parts. But really what came about at the end was this collective, collaborative, none of us is as smart as all of us sort of sort of masterpiece at the end that was so good that we never need to change it. Like, which makes an awkward different problem, right? And then when, and then how, and then they did a beautiful job with where it's different and why it's different there, and all that. But to that whole yeah, anyway, that was my favorite part of the whole thing, that this is an example of a masterpiece of collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. The collaboration there, but also like thinking about this being, the first attraction after Walt passed away. The first attraction now I think, didn't Pirates open after, like Pirates still opened after he died, but he worked on it though. Isn't that accurate?
Well, I suppose he worked on both, but
yes. Very true. Very true. But the project was,
further along,
wrapping up at that point.
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of pressure and tension they also felt, knowing that there's very few companies that outlive their founder. There's very few visions that outlive their founder. And I wonder how much of them thought this has to be a hit, because this is our first representation of what is this company moving forward. And I think that might be why there was so much collaboration. It's an interesting thing. We always say, well, what would Walt have done had he got to live longer and got to do more? But at the same time, would Haunted Mansion be the same? And I'd say probably not, because they were trying to figure it out. They were all trying to figure it out based on little conversations they had. Well, Walt told me this, Walt told me that. And they're all trying to create this vision that the leader who created it wasn't there anymore. And I think that was a part of why the collaboration happened.
Part of me totally doesn't want to argue with you on this podcast, right? On this show.
Oh man, bring it on.
But just for fun, while you were talking, I thought, oh my gosh, I think I finally understood what the answer to that question. What would Walt do? Exactly what he always does. Get the best and brightest people to collaborate, create a creative content tension between them, and hope for the best. That's exactly what he would do. We know what he would do. It's what he did. This is what he does. He gets the best and the brightest, who are closest around him, most conveniently around him, from wherever he needs to pluck them from, whether it's his backyard or the animators or wherever, right? And then he brings them together. And in this unique case, he let them work on this for years and years and years and years. Way more. Way like they built the park in a year. This was on the original concept art drawing, but didn't open until 14 years later. Right? So you could say they were working on this for 14 years. Or they had publicly announced it for 10, if you start talking about Rolly Crump in 59 and what he was doing with Yale Gracie, started working on some of the things in 59. And then over the years, and then the World's Fair, and then they come back from the World's Fair, and then they do Pirates, and then Mark Davis, the gag man, and Clyde Coates, the background set guy. Okay. Well, do we have enough people here involved yet? No? Okay. Let's go get Exitencio responsible for the story and the lyrics, and Marty Sklar to write that great sign on the outside, and Leota Toombs to do the Madame Leota. Okay, do we have enough involved yet? No. Okay, let's get more people involved. Okay, right, and then let it simmer, and let this magic creative stew just simmer for 14 flipping years to create a timeless masterpiece. Right.
Yes.
I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah. And seeing all that collaboration, all these people involved, one thing that I thought was awesome that I want to bring up is the idea of they weren't creating an attraction. They were bringing in illusions from actual magicians, bringing in illusions. What are they doing on stage? What are they doing in these different shows? I never thought about it like that they are bringing in people who actually created illusions.
Have you ever been?
I thought that was so neat.
You ever been to the Magic Castle?
I have not. I would like to.
I've been there twice, and downstairs, on like the bottom floor, they have a little display where, and there's even a haunted mansion sign by it, where you can press a button and turn and start the display, where you can see a little example of the Pepper's ghost.
Mm.
And so the story behind that, I hope they would show it in the episode, but Yale Gracie made this diorama to show Walt, to convince Walt that it would work, right?
Mm.
And then he made it. He showed Walt it worked, right? Yale had it at his house or something for years, and then he finally donated it to the guy that ran the Magic Castle, and then they put it in the 70s in a display down there, and you can just go look at it.
That's
And
awesome. I'd love to go there.
I love that story, and I love the idea that like this dude just tinkered on this stuff, and they said tinkered for him and the other guy that fixed the Hatbox Ghost. What was his name?
His
again?
name was, I wrote it down, which is cool because that was his idol. His
Daniel
name,
Daniel Joseph. Yeah,
yep, that's the one.
Daniel Joseph. Yeah, that's so rad. He tinkered and fixed that, and Yale Gracie was a perfectionist. But the idea of, to your point, Yale Gracie using special effects and stage magic. It was a little blurry to me which one of these things he discovered versus invented versus perfected. That was a little muddy or hard to follow, but the busts that follow you, the busts that talk, the Hatbox Ghost.
It sounded like the busts that follow you, that was his invention, is what it sounded like. The Pepper's ghost was from whoever Pepper was back in the day. I don't remember his deal,
Right.
which I knew it was called Pepper's Ghost. I knew it was named after someone, but I didn't know it was so
The
old, which I thought
backstory,
was
yeah.
cool. But if I thought that the show was insinuating that Yale Gracie did create the following busts.
Whatever the story is, he's brilliant and a very important piece of this collective creative puzzle, right? And,
Yeah.
and I love how in Disney World, I've never been on the one there, but how in the line they've got the tombstones paying homage to all of these great creatives. Right?
The one in Disney World, like, because I know how it is. Like you go to Magic Kingdom and part of you says, well, I'm gonna prioritize the things that aren't at Disneyland because I only have so much time. But it's very cool. It's very cool. One, the outside queue is different. I don't know if it's still available. When I went there during the mask era of Disney World, it was all blocked off. I don't know if it's there again, but they have like,
No touching.
yeah, that's what I'm guessing is no touching, and it's probably still no touching. But there's like this old piano tomb. It's like a big giant tomb of someone, and you touch it, actually makes music. There's other things to touch and things along in the line. But then it does feel different, realizing that the room's actually stretching instead of going down. That feels different. And then the two extra scenes that are in it they're really cool. There's this endless staircase. It feels almost like Harry Potter. That endless staircase is a really cool thing. Also, the other thing is that the room with the hallway that you walk through and the bus, you're actually on the ride during that part.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
Yeah, you don't walk through that. You're actually on the ride. I mean, other than that, it's pretty similar, but it's worth doing because it has such a different, because of those couple things that are different. It's really cool. Something really funny from the show that I think we have to talk about is Rolly Crump's prank on the janitor.
Hey, for you audience at home, this is the comedic difference between me and Jake. I thought that one was worth skipping.
Really? Oh, I thought that was so funny. I thought that was so funny that
You're
that,
right.
like,
It is funny. It is funny. You're right. It is funny that they pulled that on the and they complained to personnel and everything. That was good.
what I thought was funny, and this shows something about Rolly Crump, the person, is that he spent time rigging this up so that
Yeah.
it could happen at night. Like there was a lot that went into that prank, and it was a prank that he wasn't there watching. He was knowing that it was happening. I just thought it was so funny. I thought that was great.
Well, maybe I was being a little too harsh because to your point, or maybe I'm proving the point I'm about to make by being a little harsh to you there. That's probably what's happening. What? Um, it's hard for us in the 21st century, after the internet's been made, after we have pants computers that could show us any image at the tap of a magic glass in 1 second that's ever been made, after computer animation and after digital images and 21st century special effects have shown us everything scary imaginable, real or fake. I think people today, myself included, maybe aren't as entertained by that story because we're jaded and we're desensitized to like who cares if what sort of janitor in 2021 is going to be scared of some fake prop, right? But and this brings up Rolly Crump's great quote at the end where he gets emotional talking about Walt, and Walt says, "What's all this stuff back here? Oh, that's Rolly's stuff." And then he comes to him the next morning, "You son of a bitch, I didn't sleep at all last night." Like, I love the idea that Walt Disney is saying this to Rolly Crump. But then it's like, wait a minute, you literally didn't sleep last night because of some little stupid action figure he made that looked like a devil? Like, literally? Because it's hard for us today to put ourselves in the heads of people back then who literally hadn't seen stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was literally like physiologically traumatizing. Like, if we're desensitized, they were the opposite, to this sort of imagery, right? So,
Yeah.
so I forget, like Walt's trying to make a place. Walt's probably tripping himself over, like, wait, what is too traumatizing? Or what is too real? What is too scary? Where is that sweet spot? How much time do we need to figure out that sweet spot? Because
Yeah.
I don't want to make people not be able to sleep, you know?
You're talking about an era that I don't know when that was that the 1959? Was that in 59,
I
58,
don't
59?
remember the year of that
Because I
story.
think that's when they said about the Museum of the Weird. I think that's when that conversation happened. So 58, 59, we're not that far off from people freaking out about Elvis Presley shaking his hips on TV.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
yeah, thank you. That's a
completely different
good,
era.
yeah, yeah,
So
but
I did think when watching it, I did think that when he said that he couldn't sleep at night, I thought he couldn't sleep at night because he was excited about what he created. I didn't know it was because
oh,
it was so scary.
maybe I misheard it. I thought because he was scared. Because why would
I
he
don't think
say,
they're explicit either way. That's just
but
how I took it.
but in my mind, like, he wouldn't cuss. Uncle Walt wouldn't cuss if it was
I think
just
he did all the
no,
time.
no, but if it was like, I didn't hear it as, "You son of a bitch, you gave me great ideas." I heard
That's
it
true.
as "You son of a bitch, you caused me not to sleep." Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so I don't know. It could have been either way. But to your point about the Museum of the Weird that never happened, which
Yeah.
is kind of sad, even though he did have his fingerprints all in the Haunted Mansion and he did contribute a lot of weirdness. One fun thing that Disney did right after they bought Marvel, I think it was one of the first thing, and maybe the first Marvel publication after the purchase, was Disney Kingdom's Seekers of the Weird.
That's
And
cool.
this, all of the artwork in every single one of these um, was based on art by Rolly Crump. Like,
Wow, that's awesome.
all of it was, and he was involved to some extent with the writing of it. But it was just cool for me to see, like, years later, like, nothing's wasted, right? Like, even years later, um, they like, remember he held up that little coffin clock?
Yeah.
Like, that is the coffin. That's the same one. Like,
Oh, cool.
but like, it, and of all of the, I can't believe I'm even going to say this. This series was better than the Figment series, and you know I'm a
Mm,
huge Figment mark. But it was better than the Tiki Room one. It was better than the Big Thunder Mountain one, all of which were good. But this one was really good, and it was unique to see some of those ideas from Rowley in a different form.
yeah. Going back to the idea of, is it scary or is it funny or somewhere in between, and the like desensitization or whatever you call it. Um, you know, Kenny's kids, for those watching, my brother Kenny, who will be joining us at some point, whatever that is, not at this episode, but at some future episode. Um, but the first time he brought his kids to Disneyland after a long uh, absence, they his oldest went a lot as a kid, but then they moved away and they went back for the first time, and they had a home where they didn't expose their kids to a lot of movies, very selective with what movies, very selective with media that they would watch. And I joined them for day two. Day one, they were at Disneyland. Then I met up with them at California Adventure on day two. I said, "Hey, what'd you guys think?" I'm talking to his kids, and they're like, "Disneyland is scary. Uh, California Adventure is way better. Disneyland is scary." And I'm like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" They're like, like everything's dead. We went to Haunted Mansion, dead. Then we went on Snow White, dead. Everything was dead. And like they were talking about other things too that I didn't think about. We went on the Matterhorn, and there's a monster, and you don't think about it like that until you go with someone who maybe hasn't been exposed to as much, or also just kids in general, or then Pirates of the Caribbean. Well, it's just dead, and then going on Indiana Jones, and there's all these skeletons, and there's all this stuff, and that was their thought behind it. And yeah, I just realized when it was a different time, and they probably were very much the same way that people were in that time period. So of course they're going to be scared of different things.
And it's fascinating to see that generational difference,
Yeah.
and even sort of they had Tom Morris talking about being a kid in the 60s, growing up at that gate, waiting,
Yeah.
as a kid, and hearing rumors about why is it delayed, and speculating about a woman falling in a snake pit or something, about there's got to be some serious reason like that why it's delayed. Now, imagine if young Tom Morris in the 60s had a pants computer where he can start a YouTube channel about his speculation.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kid stood out there in front of that gate every week and gave a little speculative update about the construction update, and guessing. And was
And he also went to the city to get to see the permits.
and he was a young Braden from Mickey Views,
Yeah.
growing up on the internet, and then becoming this internet sensation with a channel where all he does is riff on the speculation about the Haunted Mansion. Like, could you imagine 6 years of fresh baked episodes speculating about what's taking so long with the Haunted Mansion after it was built and then until it opened? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, like they didn't have this sort of, or like the whole idea that like in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s and even into the 2000s, the Hatbox Ghost was a rumor
It was.
that the historians had to dig for, to like really get to the bottom of whether or not it even existed.
Yeah.
But now we can click a button and watch a show that tells us the whole story in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, we live in a totally different time. Like,
Yeah. Um, it's I'm not sure if your dad was there as well or not, but my mom swears that she saw it, that she was there in that first week and that she saw it.
the first
But
week.
Yeah, but that makes sense. Knowing our grandpa, they
Yeah,
very likely would have all gone,
yeah.
in that first week. That's very likely. She also said, and this was not in the documentary, this was not in the show, but she also said that what do you call that? The guy in the that's okay. Pay no attention to the man behind the
Behind the
coat.
curtain. Just keep going, keep going.
Okay. Um, she said, what do you call that? The knight, like the knight, the armor that's standing there.
Oh yeah, that he would move.
She'd jump out, like he
Yeah.
would, hide behind the thing and just jump out.
Or there used to be a second one that did that or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. This is a different, completely different side note, but they're talking about change, and they showed new footage. They showed new footage of Haunted Mansion, because showing that new footage showed that it's much brighter in there than it used to be. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think you've been on it, since the reopen. You haven't been back to the park, but it's significantly brighter with like stage lighting. It's also cleaner in there. There's a lot of cobwebs that are gone. That, well, what were the cobwebs that were there on purpose, and what were the you can't clean those, so it's cleaned out and things, but there's more light on everything,
Mm.
and it's really cool because you get to see things better. But what I did notice was, because every time I go on a ride like that, I want to look in the different directions and see what, do all the things that you're not supposed to do, that you're not supposed to look at. And when you're going up the staircase, I took a turn like this, and I saw it on in the show. I saw this as well, but I took a turn like this and looked up at the wall, and you can see, because it's more light than it used to be, you can see that it's exposed wood. Like, it's exposed wood. There's
Bad
no
show. That's
wallpaper
bad
on it.
show.
There's no
No
paint
one's
on it.
supposed to see that.
But it used to be pitch black. It
Right.
used to be pitch black, so you couldn't see it. But in the show, they were showing that clip where they said something like, "What kind of staircase?
Oh, yeah.
What
Hills.
kind of
Yeah, yeah.
staircase is this?" And you can see up on the left there, you can see that it's just not exposed wood beams. It's just that it's like plywood or some other kind of sheet that's covering up this space. And you could see at some point is where the paint started. But now, granted, I was sticking out of the dune buggy and looking back like that, but I could actually see it, and it was just really interesting to see that and then see it in the show.
I'll have to look next time. And I can't help think though, if Disney cared or would even watch this, and I'm under no false impression that they either care nor will watch this. But if they did, then next week it would be covered and fixed, right? Like,
Yeah,
they,
yeah. Well,
they don't
but
want that sort of bad show, right?
yeah, no one ever would have saw it when it was darker. Now that it's brighter, you can see it. Okay, something I have to bring up is Leota. Is her real last name Toombs?
I think so.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. I think that was her maiden name, yeah. But yeah, I love the whole idea of Kim Irvine say hi to grandma. Like that's hilarious. Anyway, but that's most of what I mean. I have a bunch of other stuff, but that's most of the big stuff for me. Did you have a last big super highlight to make sure we hit?
Yeah, I could rehash a lot of the same stuff over and over again, but the couple things that I wanted to touch on that maybe we didn't touch on yet was the differences of the different attractions.
Oh yeah,
Differences of the different attractions. I didn't know that they were creating Florida and California at the same time. Uh,
simultaneous.
Last week when we were talking about the Jungle Cruise, we got all into the water and understanding, the dryness, and then putting the water in and all that. But then in Florida, the water table's too high. The water
Yep.
table's too high, so they can't go down. In fact, most people watching this are probably aware, but Disney Magic Kingdom is on the second floor. That's on the second floor because it's all elevated. So the idea that they're creating these two things at the same time, and they have two problems to solve, two logistical problems to solve. One is, well, we got to get people under the railroad so that they can get to this big building over there. Then the other one is, well, this is still a cool thing. So, but we can't go down. There's no reason to go down because it's a building that's right behind it. So it's two problems to solve. that they're doing at the same time. I thought that was fascinating. And then the other thing is, I really want to go to
Hong Kong.
Disneyland Paris
Oh, I
so
thought you were
that
going to say
I
Hong
can go
Kong.
to the. What's that?
I thought you were going to say Hong Kong.
Oh, I want to go there too. I want to
Yeah.
see that as well. But Disneyland Paris, uh, I mean, I've watched some YouTubes of the whole thing, and it looks terrifying, and I like that.
I do want to go there too, but I am just enchanted by Mystic Manor.
Yes.
But going back to the Phantom Manor, um, I didn't have time to look this up, but I think I heard once that mayor, the first mayor character who's taken his head off,
Yeah, yeah. Instead of his hat,
uh,
takes his head off.
that's either a former Dreamfinder animatronic or they used the Dreamfinder mold to make it or something.
Yeah,
Something
I've
like
heard
that.
that before too. Yeah, it's the same mold. It's the same.
And because I wish I were Dreamfinder, I am contractually obligated to mention him anytime I can. So I
Yes,
just had
yes,
to bring that up. So thank you for.
yes. Every episode there will be a reference to Dreamfinder or Figment.
Related or not.
But Mystic Manor, them talking a little more about the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. They didn't mention that explicitly, but them talking about how that is all, us knowing that that's all tied in. I think that sounds really cool. What do you think about Tokyo having it in Fantasyland?
It's a masterpiece that you certainly cannot leave out. So if you're the Oriental Land Company and you're looking at the menu and you're choosing the best things on the menu, right? But you don't have a Liberty Square or a New Orleans Square or trapezoid, where are you going to put it? You got to put it
Yeah.
somewhere. It's got to be there. Like, it makes sense. It's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's just funny.
Yeah, it's funny. It is
it's
funny.
it's just funny. But anyway, I think that we can wrap up this discussion. But to me, the entire theme of this episode was all about collaboration. The idea of scary and funny, the idea of serious and humorous in terms of people, in terms of the kind of people involved. It's the same thing as salty and sweet together. Those things really bring it out. And I think if it was only scary for the whole time, I don't think that it would have the same longevity that it has today. If it was only goofy and funny the whole time, it would just feel like we're not going to take this is silly. We're not going to take it seriously. It's not a real thing, but that spookiness and then followed by that humor, I think that's great, and the whole thing all is cultivated by that type of collaboration.
Yeah, in the spirit of trying to finish up every episode we do with what does it make you want to do next? What does it make you want to go and produce? What does it make you want to go and create? Well, for me too, man, that's the number one thing. How can I use this and learn from this pristine example of collaboration? How can I bring it up every time I can in any sort of context where we're talking about why creative tension is a good thing, or how to optimize that on a team or at work or wherever. I want to be inspired by this, use this, learn from this to help with that. I need that help on every team that I'm a part of. I need that help. So
Yeah.
that it made me want to do that. It made me want to travel to all the parks and go on all the other versions. It made me want to look a bunch of things up. But anything else that it make you want to do or go and do and see or create?
So all of those are, ditto to all of those. Definitely about collaboration and looking more at that. Also purposely collaborating with people who see things differently, even though knowing that that's going to bring tension, but knowing that it's going to
Purposefully,
bring.
yeah, on
Yeah,
purpose. Yeah,
and
that's a
most
good
people
point.
don't. Most
Yeah,
people they
avoid it.
want to get the people who are going to disagree with them.
Most people avoid this. Most
Yes.
people do. And that's just like, well, yeah, if you don't want to make something as cool as a Haunted Mansion, then avoid it. Like,
Yeah.
that's your prerogative, right? But so we encourage all of you watching to
I have one more though. I have
go
one more.
ahead, go
I'm
ahead,
not
go,
done
go,
yet.
go. No, I
So my other thing, and
apologize.
this is what I was going to bring up last time when I went, oh, it was
Oh,
for
thank
next
you.
week. Oh,
Yes,
shoot.
the
And
tease.
what it was uh, I was enamored with Rolly Crump. I would just I wanted to see more. He was also one of the people that made me realize that the Imagineering story was filmed quite a long time ago, because I was surprised at how old he looked, and I loved learning about him, and it made me want to go, okay, this is the next person that I want to learn about, because I don't know that much about Rolly Crump. I know a lot about classic Imagineers. I know a lot about many of them, but I don't know much about Rolly Crump other than surface level things. And I'm really intrigued, and I want to go deeper into learning about him.
Deeper dive. Yeah. No, I love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
Do you have any resources that I should look at?
Not off the top of my head, but now you make me want to go look it up too. And so no, that's good. I mean, the first one I would recommend,
Is that okay? Sounds
yeah,
good.
Seekers of the Weird. But um, I mean, that's not directly him, but it's thoroughly influenced by him. But we do want to invite anyone watching, everyone watching, all four of you, to contribute in the comments as well. What did this make? What were your favorite highlights? Why? What can you add to this conversation? And most importantly, what did this make you want to go and do?
Yes.
And in that same spirit, Jake, what are we going to be discussing in the next episode?
So of course we're going right along with it. So next episode is Star Tours. We're going to be talking about Star Tours next episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know we're going to have a lot of great things to talk about on that episode. So I hope that you're enjoying following along with us. If you haven't already, catch up with the Imagineering story. And if, in fact, I don't know why you watched this episode if you haven't watched the Imagineering story. Sorry, Imagineering. Come on, what am I doing? Not the Imagineering story. Behind the attraction.
If they haven't, they should.
They should watch that too. But what you need to watch the episodes of Behind the Attraction along with this. So if you want to be following along with us on next episode, watch the Star Tours episode and then come back, and you're going to watch this next episode as we get along with it. What we wanted this to be is we're augmenting the episodes. We're not replacing the episodes. Review is not the right term for what we're doing. This is like a discussion that goes on afterwards. If think about someone like Chris Hardwick in right after The Walking Dead. Right after The Walking Dead, they had The Talking Dead, and they talked about that episode. And that's kind of the idea of what we're doing here. So please join along in the comments. I hope that you enjoyed this.
Or on Instagram.
Yes, join us on Instagram. Talk to us there. And thanks so much for joining along with us. Jake Ballentine, Chuck Schofield. We are the Creative Kingdom Society. More importantly, you are the Creative Kingdom Society.
We are.
Yes,
we all are. Keep and don't ever forget, keep consuming and keep creating.